welcome to the Coaching Cast. And today I have the honor to talk to Greg Yep, one of the best leaders I work with. So Greg is a ServiceNow CMDB architect and senior IT asset management at Equinix. And Greg, thanks for the opportunity to speak with you.
Well, Clayton, thank you very much for your kind introduction and for your flattering words, Clayton. I mean, it really means a lot to me since we do have that work history together. Yeah, like you said, I am the CMDB architect, part of the asset management team over at Equinix. And my job is really to help guide the usage and design of the underlying data structure, sort of like the CMDB within the ServiceNow platform. And I also work with the development team to improve some of the functionalities of the platform itself, the integration to different tools, integration to vendors, as well as the underlying workflow.
Excellent. So before diving into the business side of things, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are located, your family, if you are married, how long, if you have kids and pets?
Sure, absolutely. So I currently live in Nashville, Tennessee, the country music capital of the world. It's really a place I never thought that I would end up. But me and my family, we really love this area. It's been great. Nashville is a fantastic town. I've been married for over 14 years. I have three wonderful kids. Madeline, who's my oldest girl, she's 13. My son Carter is 9, and Caitlin, who's my youngest, she's 6 years old. And we also have 3 cats.
Oh, great!
I was not a huge cat person. But because of the whole COVID and the kids going hybrid school, we needed to do something, and so we went and rescued a cat, which was fantastic. And so we had her initially for about 6 months, and then our kids' piano teacher, in her yard they had some stray cats, and a couple of the kittens were born, and so she asked us if we would adopt more cats. So now we have 2 kittens in our house. So we have 3 cats total, and so it's been great. Kids really enjoy kind of working with, playing with the cats, and they've really become part of the family.
Yeah, I used to have just one dog, and now I have a little puppy. Just giving some
Nice.
hard work on handling these exercise and playing around the house. But that's good. Yeah, pets are always good. And do you have any special hobby? During the weekends, what you usually do and with your family?
Yeah, I don't know about specific hobbies, but I really enjoy people. So I kind of like helping people. So one of the things that I try to do sometimes is really help out some of the local high school kids. This is something that I've done before, of really talking to them about their future, talking to them about IT in general. I think these days kids are a lot more tech savvy than I was when I was growing up. And they have a lot of questions about opportunities, just kind of field in general. So we discuss things about, security within IT, just kind of IT operation, project management, the UI UX field, and the entire field has really grown. And so, I really like doing that. The other thing I really enjoy is interacting with other people, right? I have my neighbors, I have some friends here, and some of the recent people that we've met. And one thing to keep in mind is, as we talk to people, we realize that we have a lot more things in common than we actually realize. We all have similar goals in life. Right? We all want we all want all of our families to be healthy. We want all of our kids to do well. We want our kids to be more and do more than what we've been able to achieve. And ultimately, we want them to be happy and secure, right? And regardless of their profession, I think just a happy, good life is kind of really what we want for everybody. And I get that, we have different ways of achieving that goal. But regardless of that, I think what we want for everybody around us is all the same. So.
Yeah, I used to say when we do things and we are more people-centric, everything, starts making sense, right? Because I used to say it's not about sometimes services or, experience. It's all about people, right? How people are, relating to each other and how they are perceiving our services and our friendship, the relationship we have. And that's good. That's good to hear that. Absolutely. That makes totally sense. So, so Greg, talking about your professional career and specifically about your industry background and time. So, how long have you been working with the IT industry and specifically in your area?
So within IT, gosh, it's been about 24, 25 years. My background is really within infrastructure, and I
Mhm.
got my start, gosh, back in with SunGard when they did disaster recovery, and so I worked a lot within the disaster recovery business continuity field, and I started there before Y2K. So I don't know how many of your audience really, realize what happened in Y2K. There was just a big buildup of anxiety about, wow, when we flip over to 2000, how the computer system is going to react. It really turned out to be absolutely nothing, but there was a lot of work leading up to that. And so that's kind of where I got my start. I would say that when I started with SunGard, I met some fantastic people working at technical services. Chuck Resnick, who was my manager at the time, he really gave me a lot of opportunities. There were also technicians that I worked with, like Paul Conda, Jerry Mascaro, just to name a couple of them, and who
Mhm.
really took time to teach and guide a very young, very inexperienced and eager kid. I was kind of still in my 20s, and looking back now, I was just so immature back then. But I have to say that I was very lucky to have a great mentor, and I try to mimic what I learned from that group, what they've taught me, what they gave me, to kind of continue on. So as I have opportunity, I want to make sure that I could pass it on to other people. Now, I know that there are also lots of people who struggle through the early parts of their career, who were not as fortunate to have such a great team around them. And so, it's something that I didn't realize back then, but looking back on it now, I am like super, super happy that I got to work with that team, and that, I worked with such great professionals that invested their time in me, for me to really achieve what I've been able to achieve so far.
That's great. Absolutely. We always remember the leaders we had, the moments, when we have people that transforms our lives, and that's very nice. And I do remember as well when we work together in many advices and experience we share together. So that's really what really makes the difference. When we have good leaders like you. So makes sense. So talking specifically about your current role now. How does your work impact customers, and specifically talking about ITSM, ServiceNow, and can you tell us about how important that is for organizations that adopt you an ITSM platform?
Yes, I mean, ServiceNow really introduced a new way of looking at ITSM, IT service management. They made it easier. They made it more user friendly. Now, if you look at ServiceNow, ServiceNow is probably the most used ITSM tool. I think the last stat I saw, they said 70%, well, more than 70% of Fortune 500 companies use ServiceNow as their ITSM platform. ServiceNow really pushed the concept of workflow engine. They kind of tagline of making the world of work work for you. And I think, the platform really delivers that. They focus on making work more like life, right? So everybody, especially the younger crowd, they're so tech savvy, they can whip out their iPhones and start doing all sorts of things. But when you get to work, you're kind of really bogged down by these old systems. And I think ServiceNow has really upped their game in making the user experience a lot better. I see work that I do in the platform that we use, so, ServiceNow, to be really a customer satisfier, right? We're just making them more reactive, and we're delivering service to them. Now, I think really when you look at it, it's how can I best resolve the technical issues or the concerns that the customer may have, regardless of what it is. It could be an access issue, like, hey, I can't log in anymore, or
Right.
I used to be able to see this, but I can't see it anymore. We talk about data issues of, hey, this isn't correct. These data just doesn't look right, or there are technical issues like your application not being available, your web server going down, and there's a whole bunch of those things that ServiceNow can really kind of streamline. When a user calls in and says, hey, I am, John Smith. When I have information, I know who they are, I know where they are, I know which technology they use. I also know who their reporting or their management structure is. I know what department they sit in, I know their roles. And so just by me having their name within the tool, I have a whole myriad of information about that user who's calling in. When you dive into a technical issue, I know, what it is, whether it be a server, an application, a network gear, storage. I could tell you if it's on-prem or in the cloud. I could tell you how important it is to the organization, like business criticality, right? Is this something that I need to action on right now, or can I wait a little bit? Or I could also tell you who supports it. Who is the resolver team? Who actually owns this application or infrastructure? And once we add event management within ServiceNow to the fold, we could really integrate it with all of our source alerting and monitoring tools, and we'll know exactly what went wrong. We could provide some stats, and we could provide so much information that we were not able to do before. So that, and ultimately, our goal is to reduce MTTR faster, right? How do I resolve my mean time to resolution, and how can I get business back to doing work? And I think ServiceNow as a tool, and especially with a built-in ITSM process, and a team to support that, really is impactful to how business can do more than what they're able to do today.
Yeah. One of the challenges I would say, or maybe common situations for many customers using ITSM nowadays is using the ITSM platform on its full capacity, right? Sometimes they are not using some specific module, or they are struggling with the CMDB normalization thing, or just making sure they can automate on its full capacity. So in your opinion, how does those, or how we can achieve more results with the HSM, and how do we implement its full capacity in organizations like that? Large organizations, or small, even smaller medium organizations that want to explore the whole all the features from ITSM, for example, right? So
I think there are a couple of ways to really kind of looking at that. And for me, really, if you look at ITSM and even some of the asset management pieces, I kind of see that as two separate pieces. One is really the ITSM, the service management, or even IT asset management practice, right? So what does that really look like? What is our process? How can we improve the current flow? And the second thing is, I think within technology, we tend to think a lot about automation, right? I think the big word that I heard a whole bunch about, especially within the whole pandemic and COVID, was automation. How do I automate? And I think conceptually, that's kind of really big concept, but the question is, how do we implement that? I think the scope of ITSM and ITAM is increasing to provide value to the organization. Even from the past 5 years, what we're able to do within IT asset management space has drastically improved. Once we take the initial step, the organization will start seeing some of the benefits of standard practices. We have more accurate data, less unexpected calls to operations, kind of, people who are on call, less outages. We could do more preventive and not always be reactive. And, and I think all of that really allows us to reduce our MTTR, right? Higher uptimes, less noise. ITSM provides better control, more awareness, and also reduces errors, like human errors. If you really look at change management, if you really look at the major incident management, and even incident management as a whole. Now, all this takes time, and it's a shift in operational practice or even operational thinking to what we were doing before. But once implemented, the organization will start seeing and start reaping the benefits of all these process changes and improvements. I think the scope of ITSM and ITAM is continuing to expand. I know initially, even when you and I were working together, software asset management was kind of in its infancy, right? And initially, it was really focused in on hardware, but now we are moving into software provisioning, access management, installs, and also deinstalls of the applications. Right. And I see it right now, especially within 2020, we're stepping into the whole user experience. We're talking a lot more about self-service, like a single stop shop, right? How do I reduce the number of places that our users have to log in, right? And ServiceNow as a workflow engine is fantastic and can expand to accommodate a lot of that. I mean, even when we were starting out in the industry together, in Clayton, I mean, how many logins do we have, right? How many different passwords and login credentials do we have? How many URLs do we have to click into in order to launch an application to work? And we do a lot of swivel chair between application to an application. And I think what ServiceNow really provides is a way for us to go to a single tool. I can log into one place. And if I have a request for, SAP or Workday or whatever it is, I could launch everything through there, right? So it's a easier user experience, and they were able to self-serve, which is great. IT asset management, ITAM is also
Hmm.
maturing, right? I think even SAM as a discipline, I
Yep.
mean, they're looked at separately, where before they just looked at it together as an asset management as a whole.
Yep.
And I think now that the companies can really see the savings with the
Hmm.
mature ITAM practice, they're willing to staff, and they're also willing to put more effort and emphasis and backing, executive backing behind ITAM, ITSM, because there is a financial gain to it, right? I mean, there's a net gain for the company, not just in time, but also, financially, we could control things better. I know we did discuss a little bit about automation, right? Technology.
Yep.
Keep hearing automate, automate, automate. And I know this is like something that people just kind of throw around, but this is what I mean by automation within technology. I mean, now that we can load agents all over assets, whether it be workstations, when you're talking about Internet of Things, like company-owned assets, whether it be your tablet or smartphones or even personal phones that we allow people to connect with. We deal with SaaS services, and also there's been a huge push, especially in 2020, to a public cloud space, whether it be Azure Cloud or AWS Cloud or GCP, Google Cloud Platform. There's been a
Hmm.
huge push toward that. What we're able to do within technology, within automation, is we could track users. We know who's logging in. We know what they're doing. We know where they're accessing it from. We also know the software that they're using, right? And we could take action as needed. We could remove software, especially software that that we pay license that nobody uses,
Yep.
or even software that gets installed illegally, right? It's
Yep.
kind of in the security end. But we also have the capability to remote wipe any device. So if we see a vulnerability, or if we think there is a vulnerability or a liability, we could go ahead and wipe that device clean, right?
Yep.
And we could also build standards, practices, workflows, and let automation handle it kind of going forward. It takes some initial work to build out some of the automation, but once you build it out, you just let that run and you can concentrate on the next one. So, that's I really see it within the processes, also with technology, with automation within technology.
Yep. Absolutely. You spoke about the ham, the hardware asset management capabilities, and also the software asset management capabilities. And I know that ServiceNow has a special module called SAM Pro for software asset management. The whole life cycle management. And I've seen some companies, just using the software asset management foundation capability, which does not bring, of course, all the components needed for customers to secure an environment or bring, license compliance, provides a good normalization stuff. And the good thing about SAM Pro is that it has a very advanced normalization engine right nowadays. And by the way, SAM Pro is in the Gartner Magic Quadrant now as a leader of the SAM tool available in the market. So it's very good for customers, who want to um, explore a little bit more about software asset management, especially the license compliance stuff, which is very complex in some environments. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So talking about the future of ITSM, because you brought some good points about cloud migration, IoT, machine learning, and some of those things available nowadays. So how do you see the future of ITSM, and specifically in asset management? Do you see more and more automation going on? And just want to understand your view on that.
Wow, there is a lot happening within this space, and I think really when we look to the future and the direction of asset management, there are, I think, a couple of aspects. Obviously within automation, there is a lot to be had within that space. When you look at the asset management on the hardware side, I think, talking about SAMPRO, ServiceNow
Yep.
also introduced this concept of HAMPRO about a year ago. And if you really look at the HAMPRO section, it provides a lot of the similarities that we get within HAMPRO, the normalization engines. You have your, end of sales and end of life, so that you could actually control the life cycle a little better. And they're really building a lot out within that space. I think really when we look at the direction, I kind of break it down to sort of three separate pieces. One is within the security realm, right?
Mhm.
If you look at all the work that ServiceNow has done within their SecOps and the GRC side, within security, they really want to know, who has my asset, who has access to my asset,
Yep.
and where is that asset, right? And I think security, especially with all the hacks that are happening, the vulnerabilities that people are finding, all the ransomware that's out there, that's been a huge topic for I think every company. And the second thing is like financial, right? How do I know what I have, right? How many of these things do I have? And also, do I need more? When do I need more? And I think these are questions that companies are asking more and more, and that product and tools like ServiceNow using IT asset management can really answer some of that. And some of the neat things that I'm seeing the last 2, 3 years is really within ITAD, IT asset disposal, right? Companies are a lot more environmentally friendly, and so what they're starting to ask question is, hey, now that I no longer need these devices, what do I do with them? Do I donate them? Do I reuse them for interns or loaners, or do I dispose of them? And it's how do I dispose of them? And I think that's a difficult question, especially when you look at companies that are global, right? It's easy to handle certain things in country, but now if I have presence in 34 countries or even 40 countries in multiple continents, well, how do I get a single vendor to help me out? Do I engage multiple vendors? And I think these are a lot of the questions that people are asking. When you look at, I think the industry as a whole, when we first started, it was really the question of, you know, how do I get my stuff in? And it was really hardware asset focused. But I think as we mature within the process, the bigger challenge is really how do I secure my assets,
Yep.
right? Well, who has it? How do I know who has it? Who has access to it? Who's logging into it? And I think that is the sort of the next challenge for IT asset management. And I think some of the tools and automation, we're able to decide who's logging into it. And some of the agents that we deploy, and there are a lot of security tools out there. They're start able to see how often people are logging in and what they're doing with that device, not just who's logging into that device.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That makes totally sense, especially now that you brought a very good point about security, right? Which means, CIOs and CEOs are more and more concerned about maintaining a secure environment by protecting customers and employees' personal data. And I think ITSM is not different than other systems that they want to have a very secure environment that protects not only personal data, but assets and all information that brings the whole information data exposed to any breach, any security exposure. But yeah, that's absolutely a good point. And moving to the one of my best topics here about people specifically. So talking about professionals in your area of expertise, right? So in your view, what would be the technical skill sets required to stand out from the crowd in this particular area?
That is a tough question. I think for me, the primary technical skill I look for is somebody with analytical skills.
Mhm.
We work with data, right? Day in,
Right.
day out. We look at data all the time. So, we need to make sense of the data that we are looking at. We need to be able to analyze in order to make improvements. Also, somebody who has troubleshooting skills is also very important.
Mm.
When we see an issue with data, we need to find root cause and resolve the data discrepancy, right? I think with more and more automation and technology, we really introduce within ITSM and platforms such as ServiceNow, I see people with more technical experience, like background within enterprise space, they tend to perform the best. However, I think anybody can learn technology, anybody can learn a tool, but not everybody can make sense of the data. So therefore, I think analytical skills and this ability to troubleshoot is really something that I hold in high regard.
Yep. Every year we are kind of, doubling the amount of, stored data everywhere. We have, more and more, we have more, cell phones with more storage, capacity. We are, driving our cars, we are just using our cell phones, and Google is registering everything. It's just about data, right? I think they are start using the data to know more about client experiences, know more about ourselves and what we are doing. And this is not different in ITSM platform. And I mean, and the skill sets for professionals who want to be very, stand up from the crowd, I guess, is specializing in, analytics, BI and, data intelligence and those sort of things. I guess it's going to be a very differentiator, in my opinion as well. So that's a good point. Yep.
Absolutely.
And what about, we spoke about hard skills in analytics, in data, etc. So what about soft skills specifically? Um, any important skills you think are required for these professionals to overcome daily issues and stay relevant? Just kind of be a frontline guy and just take care of the of problems and just be a leader. What do you think about soft skills specifically?
Wow, that is a very hard question. I think for me, some of the things that I kind of really look for people, it's really one is critical thinking, and I think the second thing is negotiation skills. I think
Yeah.
IT asset management is always maturing, it's always advancing, and although we
Yeah.
absolutely need to be tech savvy, and I think ultimately our goal is to meet business needs. Right? We need to meet them where they are. IT as a whole, we're really a support organization, right? We help business do their jobs better. And it doesn't really matter about the industry, right? It could be in finance, healthcare, supply chain, or just technology like MSPs. We need to understand their business goals. So regardless of which industry you work in, you need to understand the business goals. And we are here to help improve business processes and work with others to improve what we are doing today, right? Tomorrow needs to be better than today. And I also like people who can take pride in small wins. This is not a race, but this is a marathon, right? It's not a sprint. And so any small gains that we can achieve, I think it's something that we need to celebrate. And I think that's where negotiation skills really come in, right? We don't need to achieve 100% of where we want to go by tomorrow. But if we take a step closer, I think that is a huge win for us as well as the organization. We are in a field that is always changing, it's always maturing, it's always improving. Where we were 3 years ago to where we are today is just a complete different world. And people can learn new tools and technology. I kind of mentioned that a little while ago. But a positive mindset and a willingness to adopt to change, finding people like that is pretty rare. And so for me, I think, those kind of soft skills really stand out.
Yeah. Being resilient to changes, and especially nowadays, we are living this social distance, and which is a challenge. We have to reinvent our, ability to speak with people and making sure we can be, relevant to them, right? Because today you don't have the possibility to just go and to a client, site client, and just speak, in person with the client. You have just to call them or make, a virtual meeting, something like that. So I think, being able to socialize with people and just kind of understand and listen actively, I think that's probably one of the good soft skills as well for people who want to be make a difference and be relevant nowadays, especially in this pandemic situation. Everybody's working remotely, and we don't ever see people sometimes in person, especially clients, right?
Absolutely. It's a different world than it was last year, completely.
Absolutely. We never expected. So in today's your work environment, Greg, what leadership styles do you think, better fit organizations? Because, we have, if we think about the old fashioned way of being a leader, right? Um, and when we compare to startups and, like Google, or other companies, like Google, Facebook, and Spotify, those kind of things. Do you think this is open-minded leadership style, or uh, just become more open to changes and to different people? And what would be the good leader of the future from your perspective?
You know, uh, there are many different leaders, and they all have their own styles.
Yeah,
Chuck
yeah,
Resnick, as I mentioned earlier, was my manager 20 plus years ago, right? I mean, I still remember like it was, kind of like yesterday, the way that he stepped in to help. You know, but I think, I think leadership style like that just doesn't change. However, in today's climate, today's environment, we need leaders who are willing to roll up their sleeves and dive in with the people around them, right? I think active
right.
leadership is what I'm seeing more and more these days. And I think that's the type of leadership that is really driving the change. If you look at all the leaders over in Silicon Valley, even, Elon Musk, I was kind of reading about him last week where,
Yeah,
he moved to Texas, right, to
yep.
concentrate on the SpaceX program. And he's so dedicated that he sold, I think he had like 7 homes that he sold. One of his
Hmm.
prized home was like $35 million US. He sold that home and he moved into a makeshift shaft that was about $50,000 to stand up, because that is on
Yeah,
campus of where SpaceX program is launching.
yeah,
Because he is dedicated to what he is doing, and he doesn't just tell people to, hey, you go and do this. He's there with them. And so I think that leadership style is something that people really migrate toward. I no longer see leadership teams who sort of bully their directs. I remember when I was kind of starting in the industry, there was a lot of just, booming big voices and directions. And sometimes you're kind of confused as to what they were really wanted you to do. But more and more, you're seeing active leaders who are engaged with the team. Leadership by example and collaboration is shown to work better for the organization. And and as you mentioned, COVID, my goodness, has really changed the way we work and also the way we interact with other people. I think the whole, web video conferencing is a concept that, we toyed around with even 2 years ago, right? Everybody had a video conference room, no one really used it. Now it's everything is video conference, remote work, and it has forever changed the work mindset. And we've learned to treat everyone individually. One of the great things that I'm seeing nowadays is that, there's a lot of emphasis on sort of the people having struggles, individual struggles, right? We no longer look at a workforce as a collective, but
yeah,
individuals that may be having a hard time. Some people don't work well remotely,
yeah,
and companies are doing better at putting employees first. So
yeah,
I think that has been fantastic, and I would love to keep seeing that going.
yeah. And I have a personal opinion, especially because when we kind of start looking individually, people and how they work, and in specific challenges, how they face challenges, and start looking at their inner skill sets. For example, when I sometimes use my coaching techniques, I just see if the person is like a doer, or if it is the person is in has analytics skill sets, or if they somebody likes to work with people, likes to lead, communicate. And I think what we can do potentially sometimes is just move and understanding that person is really, in the right position, in the right place, and
Mhm.
perhaps he or she is not, doing a great job just because it doesn't fit the inner skill sets, right? So you just move that person to a role that makes more sense, and then the person, boom, starts, performing very nice, and is staying happier and bringing better results. So I think one of the good leadership styles as well is just thinking and looking from a holistic view. Not looking from a holistic view, but working specifically for each person as an individual, right? and making changes and talking to people to understand exactly what they want to do. Because I believe that when you work happier, when you are doing things that makes more sense, and you are not just doing a task, you have a mission or a purpose behind it. You understand the whole story about what you have to do, right? Not only, okay, you have to do this, but how does this impact my customers, or what I'm doing here to succeed, to help people to have a better life, or to have a better result, a better user, a better experience, right? So I think in this particular thinking from that side, I think you become more human, and you become more, and you create better relationship with people. And I think that's working for me. And I think I would like to see more leaders, just being like that, just using those kind of coaching techniques to, cheer up people, and see them, working happier and contributing more and more. This is something I really think that's gonna make a difference.
I completely agree with you. And I've seen the way you work, and especially the way you lead your teams. And I would tell you that I am completely impressed of just the dedication you have, how you invest yourself in your team, and you work with them, and not just about their professional growth, but their
Yeah,
personal growth as well. Because I think
yeah.
both those aspects are very important to the individual. So it's been great watching you and just kind of really leading your team. So I thank you for all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Greg. So specifically, about career development, let's say, somebody who wants to, do more and stay relevant within big companies like Equinix, Unisys, like I mentioned, Google, Facebook, and other companies. Is there any specific advice you would like to give us, just to keep self-motivated, people to get, being motivated, or stay self-motivated to deliver more and achieve more, for example, especially now that you don't see people in the offices anymore, you just stay, in your home, and working in silos. I'm not sure if you've ever been in a situation like that, but just want to hear from you what you do to keep yourself motivated in different situations like we're living today.
I would say that I am completely blessed where I am today. I never thought that I would achieve as much as I have,
Hmm.
and the opportunities that people have given me really far exceeded in some areas, even what I thought I deserved. Right. So, I would say that you never know what you can achieve. Therefore, just keep reaching for it. When I was younger, the word no used to really crush me. I'm like, oh, but I really wanted to do that, right?
Yeah.
But as I've kind of matured, I realized that no today, it doesn't really mean no tomorrow, right?
Hmm.
So I always kind of embrace the no as okay, well maybe not yet, and I would
Yeah.
ask the question of, well, what do I need? What else do I have to do? Right? Where am I falling short? And like you mentioned, more you enjoy your work, better you will feel. And I think the better you feel, better you perform. And that goes professionally as well as personally. Sometimes we end up in these toxic environments and bad situations for whatever reason. You could be
Yeah.
moved into a team, or you could have moved into accepted a new job or a new role, and it just really didn't turn out to be what you thought it was going to be. You know, um, I think you really need to kind of try to get yourself out of there. Maybe invest in a team that will invest in you. Maybe a switch to a different department or something. But I think you should always learn, teach, and mentor. Right? I think those
Yeah.
those things are very important. One thing that I always enjoy, and again, what I really love about what you've been doing, Clayton, is really investing others. You invest your time and your passion into people that report to you, and I believe your end goal is to make them better than when you first met them, right?
Yeah.
Both professionally and personally. And
Exactly.
just talking to you, and I remember that in the first time I met you down in Washington D.C. when you came up, and we sat
Yeah.
and talked for hours, right? I mean,
Yeah.
just the enjoyment that you had. Like, I mean, you had a life bubbling out of you, and that was for me crazy exciting, right? Because people with that kind of passion for life have passion work as well. And when you enjoy life, others around you will enjoy the experience and come along that ride with you, right? If you are miserable at work, people don't want to be associated with you and they have a hard time working with you. But if you are enjoying life, you'll be surprised at the number of people that would want to come alongside you and help you, because I think in their mind they look at you and say, wow, why is he so happy, right? What does
Yeah.
he have that I don't have? And I think in that, you can really uplift the people and the teams around you, the department around you, the floor around you, and within that, you make work and what you are doing a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the words you used, and I use this a lot, is invest in people, right? And not spending time, because you are not spending, you are investing time, right? Especially when you, like you said, when you first met a person, right? Even the person is leaving from the university and doesn't have all these skill sets you need, but you see a good people, willing to help and willing to achieve more. And you, as a leader, you have to invest time, because you know that that person is going to be a great professional, right? And then you're going to have a good person working in your team and achieving better and excellent results. So when I see, you know, people, and I see, they are willing to help, willing to learn, and I do learn with them as well. I try to be more humanized and saying, okay, that's fine. Let me help you to understand what's going on, and then this person will have a sense of gratitude with you, and you're going to create like a very nice relationship going forward, which is fantastic, right? Um, so I think we are, Greg, we are approaching the end of our conversation here. It's been really, fantastic having this conversation with you. um, Before we just conclude here, I just wanted to thank you again for your time. It's really been a pleasure working with you. It's an honor for me to spend some times working with you. When we met in Washington D.C. as well in person, we spent many hours working, speaking and about family and other things. And so I wish we kind of speak more and more and share more experiences. So it's been really a pleasure. Thank you so much. Would like to say something before we close?
Thank you. I really enjoyed this time, and thank you for allowing me to kind of throw my perspectives out there. I think the last thing is I would encourage others to take time to mentor others. And
Yeah.
the word that you and I keep using is let's invest in other people that are out there, right? Um, you know, I really believe that leaders, good leaders, develop other leaders,
Yeah.
and I believe in that development, and that is the true gauge of a professional. And like you,
Yeah.
Clayton, I think just the leaders that you've been able to kind of really cultivate, within your SAM team, it's been amazing to see. The progress that they make in their profession is great to see. And I know a lot of them have left your department for a different company at an opportunity somewhere else. And I think you and I both look at that as an achievement for
Yep.
us, right? Not
Absolutely.
that like, wow, I can't believe they left, but it's really we're happy. We are supportive that they were able to take that next step. And I know, you and I, we both feel as though if they could have taken that next step, if we had an opportunity within our team to give them that next level experience, we actually would have done it. However, that's not always the case, you know. But
Yeah.
seeing them mature and really grow professionally to take the next step, even if it's outside of a company, I think for both of us, it's a very satisfying feeling. you know and I know I said this before, but I really am extremely impressed by what you've been able to do with others, and how you take time to mentor each and every employee. I mean, that is obvious in their appreciation of you. I know I read a lot of comments of people that are leaving your team
Hmm.
that show appreciation on their way out, and I think that is a huge compliment to any leader. And
Yeah.
I really firmly believe that by helping others, we become a better person. We become a better us, right? And I
Absolutely.
think in doing all that, not only do we help others, really mentor them, coach them, and bring them along, but I think in that we drive deep satisfaction. So I thank you very much for just kind of giving me this platform to share. I thank you for just having the opportunity to catch up with you. Really miss our discussions, and it's been fantastic. Again, I do catch other podcasts, although a lot of those I can't understand. But even with all that, I think just seeing what you've been able to do, and really just your style of coaching, it's really been a tremendous blessing for me.
Absolutely. And I appreciate spending some time with you when we work together and being able to learn a lot with you, Greg. So appreciate again all your advices and everything you share with me. So appreciate and have a great day.
Thank you, Clayton.